So on the one hand, I think that my work deals with histories of, or historical violence on the one hand. And on the other hand, I think that I'm working with qualities of seduction, beauty, and humor. And I'm actually trying to bring these apparently very separate ideas together into one frame in the body of my work, in my paintings and my drawings. Right now, I have come to understand this, I have this evolution of a process and a relationship towards painting that has been evolving over 20 years. And right now, what it's evolving towards is the idea, what I like to work on also at HFBK with my students and in my work, is thinking about painting as care work. So care work is something that's understood as work that's done without financial benefit or done out of a sense of social responsibility for others or care. That's enacting care. And I want to take painting out of this kind of well, I'm very invested in like the traditions of painting. I had very traditional training as a painter and in kind of classical, technical, formal training, but I'm interested in how we can take this language that is inherent to painting and expand it to notions of creating communities of care and having painting be a form of care work, which is very different than how I think it's historically been understood and defined in terms of a kind of its masculinist history. And so that's what I'm interested in right now. Yeah. It's, for me, my teaching and my art practice are not separate. And the same questions I have about power presented themselves for me when I began teaching. And I wanted to know why certain people in the classroom have power, namely the professor, and the students don't, you know, in the traditional model. And so I'm very invested in histories of radical pedagogy. So I am interested in people like Paulo Freire, who wrote Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Bell Hooks wrote a book called Teaching to Transgress. And William Ayers, who people probably know less well, he's an American anti-war activist from the 60s who founded the Weather Underground. And he became a radical pedagogue as well. And I'm interested in how we can, rethink power in the classroom. How, for me, painting is something radical and sacred, or has this potential. It is not a luxury good, and or I resist this definition of it. And I want to bring that vision into the classroom, so that we can start to think about new relationships and new possibilities of knowledge production. And so art, for me, is part of knowledge production. I would just, I guess what I would appreciate or hope for is a kind of open sense of collaboration. And the two things I want to work on are actually embodiment and care, and how this then affects, so from my understanding, any student could come to with their own perspective and investment in painting, and that this can develop anybody's practice if we start to think about how to develop communities of care. So I would appreciate openness, and I would want collaborative partners, people that are willing to engage and take on the agency that I would like for the students to have. I'm not interested in kind of, I guess it's also not the model here, but the kind of top-down, even the notion in art schools of the master artist and the artists that work under them, this to me runs counter to my ideas of how knowledge is produced, how we are, I want to be in community with other artists who might be younger than me, that might have different experiences than me, but where we can kind of learn from each other. I'd like to learn from my students, actually. So that is the long answer to get to that.